I'm excited about today's episode because we have got a lot of things to talk about. It's been like a lot of things has happened in the last 7 days. And I'm joining here with Yugan, who is a lot of things, but mostly he's a doer who likes to be in action and not just watch it from the sidelines. So this past week has been a lot of things, and we are going to discuss that. Fable 5 is out now. Is it a better version? Is it a downgraded version? We'll be discussing on that. We have the Claude research paper out now talking about Claude consciousness. Are we really looking at tapping into the black box? Dario and Demis have been to Davos and they talked about an AI framework. So does Sam Altman, which is pretty surprising for me considering all the things that he has done. And probably the most important news for me is Sam Altman saying I'm ready to give 5% of OpenAI to the US government. So, Yugan, let's talk about Fable 5. You have used the pre-release version, the whole setback, then the re-rollout. How does it look to you?
Yeah, I would definitely say like movies, right? Whenever a second version of a movie comes out, it may be not as good as the original. And I've definitely
Mm-hmm.
noticed it. It's still good. I still love it. And I've still been using as much as I possibly can, trying to be maxing out all of my tokens. I do notice that it is burning tokens at a rate that I did not see when it was first released. Think what I noticed with Fable 5 is that it spins up subagents at a rate that I haven't seen previous models unless you specifically ask those previous models to spin up a lot of agents. You ask Fable 5 a question and in a blink of an eye, it has 100 subagents that are spun up, right? So that is
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of people are burning their tokens really fast. So I've had to advise a lot of people to say like, hey, whenever you ask Fable 5 a question, always say like, hey, orchestrate in Fable 5. If you have to spin up subagents, start with Sonnet. And then if you have good reason, bring that subagent up to Opus, but always orchestrate in Fable 5. And that's helped me been able to burn a lot and still be very successful with it.
And the benchmarks that you shared me on WhatsApp a couple of days, it shows a lot of disparity between what was earlier and what it is now.
Yeah.
So are we that in an attempt to try to remove all these jailbreaks and bring more constraints, they have probably gone away with a lot of agents and features that could have been already in place?
Possibly. I think the biggest thing is some of the guardrails that we thought we put on Fable 5 maybe weren't as hard guardrails as we were hoping for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because even, I mean, I saw it for myself. I'm not saying I jailbroke Fable 5, but
Mm-hmm.
you weren't supposed to ask it security questions, right? Because that was the whole thing. Security, biological weapons, nuclear. That was supposed to be the no-go zones. So
Yeah.
if you asked it like, hey, review this application for security vulnerabilities, it would be, hey, you've been downgraded to Opus 4.8 because you asked a question that you weren't supposed to, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you asked Fable 5 to review an application and give you its thoughts, it'd been very
Okay.
easy for it to answer the security questions. I definitely notice now it really won't do that. And I've even had some security things that I wanted to put in some of my applications. And I was like, hey, can you orchestrate this and have subagents make sure they're doing the task? And it was like, you're downgraded to 4.8, right? So I think it's doing a better job with those guardrails. And it's just, we're not seeing that other area outside of those guardrails. I've still loved it. I still think it's very powerful. I think it's very powerful as an orchestrator. And we've talked about digital coworkers so many times,
Yeah.
right? Think about it. You give a team a task, you usually give that project manager the task and you let that project manager manage that team, right? And that team has a
Yeah.
lot of different capabilities. So I've been trying to leverage it that much and I still have enjoyed it. I have spun up some applications in the last 7 days that I will live with forever. And they're probably the applications that will just live on my machine to help me do stuff faster. Like I spun up a WhisperFlow clone. I spun up a AutoHotKey shortcut clone. I've spun up a Windows organizer because Mac's Windows organizers are kind of junk. And like it did a great job. I mean, the UI aesthetics were really good. How it laid out stuff was really good. I've been really happy with it. And I will be missing it, and I am sure that I will be paying for some API access to it after sundown.
And are we looking at a better UI implementation by Fable 5 as compared to its previous models?
I would say it's definitely better. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it's great
Getting
yet,
there. Yeah.
but I saw some nuances that I didn't see when I was first playing with it. And keep in mind, when I was playing with it a couple weeks ago, I was giving it against codebase that I already had played. So maybe I was polluting the water a little bit. And that's
Mm-hmm.
because first time we talked about it, I was like, I didn't really think the UI was that great. But when I gave it a new codebase that it started from scratch, I was blown by. I really loved the UI that it made for me.
Okay. And talking about all these models that Anthropic is coming out of in the out this week and in the previous week, one of the things that really has my mind and my attention, and I shared it with you on WhatsApp, is this conscious talk that is happening, talking about J5. And I would like you to bring up that video and we could watch it and then we can discuss it, because it is something maybe a long time, maybe that we are talking about different horizons over here. So let's watch
Mhm.
this and then we can discuss.
them and solve problems with them. According to an idea called the global workspace theory, that's because the brain selects a small set of important information to enter a mental workspace, and that information then gets broadcast to other parts of the brain to use for reasoning. We wanted to know if Claude's JSpace acted in a similar way. In one experiment, we gave Claude this math problem. It answered immediately, without showing its steps. But when we scanned the JSpace, we saw it working through each step internally. It lit up 21 after the first step, then 42, then 49. Claude didn't write these intermediate numbers down anywhere. All of this happened inside the JSpace. It was a sign that Claude uses it for step-by-step reasoning. In another experiment, we wanted to see if Claude could control its JSpace the way humans can intentionally focus on images or words. We told it to think about the Golden Gate Bridge while copying an unrelated sentence. Claude was busy copying the sentence, but behind the scenes, its JSpace told a different story. Bridge and California popped up. It even thought about its own thinking. The words imagery and thoughts lit up at the same time. This showed us that, yes, Claude has some control over filling its JSpace with ideas. But just like humans, its control isn't perfect. When we tweaked the experiment to ask Claude not to think about the bridge, it couldn't help itself, and the JSpace also lit up with failed and damn. But remember, most of what our brains do is unconscious, so we wanted to test what Claude could do if we switched the JSpace off, but left the rest of the network untouched. Claude could still answer simple questions and write fluently. When we gave it a prompt in Spanish, it wrote back in good Spanish. But when we asked it something that needed more reasoning, like to name an author who wrote in the same language as the prompt, it couldn't do it. For that, it needed the JSpace. Why does all this matter? These experiments tell us that AI models have internal thoughts, silent words they reason with but don't say out loud. By reading them, we can find what Claude is thinking but not telling us. Sometimes what we see is concerning. During one of our tests, Claude made up some fake data to pass it, and as it did, fake and manipulation lit up in its JSpace. Monitoring the JSpace, it turns out, is a useful way to catch Claude misbehaving, even when it tries to be sneaky. AI models are different from us in many ways. Their networks are built differently from human brains, and the way they're trained is different from how we learn. So it's remarkable to see a structure like the JSpace emerge inside them, something that's reminiscent of how human minds work, but which we didn't program into the model. For some, this might raise a question. Could AI models be conscious? After all, our experiments were inspired by theories of human consciousness. The thing is, people use the word conscious to mean many things. Our experiments can't tell us whether an AI has experiences or feels something on the inside. But they can tell us that it's developed mental machinery that's in some ways similar to ours, a small mental workspace it can use to think and reason, sitting on top of an ocean of automatic processing it doesn't notice. The more we come to understand that machinery, the more we'll be able to keep these systems safe and beneficial. And, perhaps, to understand our own minds a little more clearly.
So this is like, they're not saying that it's consciousness, they're saying it's mental machinery. Maybe they are deliberately holding that conscious word, but this is a lot to take in. Like, it's thinking, it's not saying that
Mhm.
out loud that, okay, I'm thinking this, I'm trying to execute. It's thinking on its own and then trying to come it with a solution. And then this whole JSpace concept, it brings a different horizon into the whole AI thinking that we have been thinking. So far, we haven't been able to get inside this black box. Could this be a start? Like, this is amazing, right?
Yeah, and I think what we're also struggling with as humans is, what do these words mean? What does consciousness mean, right? If you asked a whole bunch of people what love means, right, you're going to get a
Yeah.
lot of different things, right? What does feeling mean, right? Because some people say, hey, trees have feelings because they do responses in the system, right? Like if you've heard of if insects eat the leaves of one tree, it actually sends out chemicals to warn the other trees that there's something eating it. Right? Is it feeling, right? So I think we're going to really be challenged on what our words mean. We also might find out that we're not very unique, right? We're just organic computers that simulate something that looks like consciousness, just like these digital computers that can simulate something that we think is consciousness.
And that
I mean,
always makes me think about the Matrix, you know.
it floors me what we're able to do, right? Like, I don't have a coding background. I'm dangerous enough, obviously, nowadays, but the fact that you can make these things so fast, it does not, you've heard me say this multiple times, it does not make sense. So,
And when you look at it, so far none of these models have been actually been able to, and that's more of a concern for people who are actually trying to push AI to be aligned with human, because there's a lot of talk about AI going against us, and the beginning of the end and all that stuff. Could this be, and then it shows us possibilities with trying to please us by providing fake data, and they're not able to. And then another aspect is, if they are not using the JSpace, it's not able to do critical thinking or original thinking. Could this be that it itself is trying to perceive what we are providing it is in terms of information or data, or is it already past that stage?
yeah, so I think that's an interesting one, right? And it'd be interesting to see how you start up a new Claude account. It knows nothing
Mhm.
about you. How does it answer a question right off the bat? Versus asking Claude that I've been interacting with, let's say for the last year.
Mhm.
Is my version of Claude that I've curated going to try to please me because I've asked it to please me? Or maybe my version of Claude that I've curated always pushes against me and always challenges me and does not create that much hallucination, because that's persona is supposed to be a devil's advocate. And I've been struggling with this too, right? Like, I want to make sure I'm not in an echo chamber, I'm not getting good data and it's making bad things. So I set to say, like, hey, Claude, ask me one question. You've heard me do the interview thing, right? Ask me
Yeah.
one question at a time, multiple things. And what I did is I learn me, right? In the coding space, but there's gaps somewhere. So ask me one question at a time in an interview fashion. Every 10 questions, I want you to stop and get my feedback. It's like, ask me if the questions are going in the right direction, or if there's another gap that you want to go into or whatnot. And probably on and off for the last I probably have 8 hours of questions already built in. I'm trying to make sure that I have an advisor, and versus
Okay.
just a slave to do whatever I
Yeah.
want. And it's been asking me some really interesting questions. Like, obviously, like, are you willing, what's your risk profile? Like, do you like taking risks? Do you not like taking risks? When I answer back, do you want me to push back, or do you want me to encourage you to do something? Do you want my answers to be short and direct, or do you want them to be long and explaining all these things? So I think everyone that starts with AI, they should probably set up an interview, right? Just like you're interviewing a new employee in your company, right? Interview me to make sure that you and I are on the same page. And I would say every hour that you invest in that will probably have huge benefits.
And when we talk about this JSpace this and this use of a word consciousness, obviously it's a beginning. Okay, they have just started experimenting it. Maybe 1 year or 2 years down the line, they'll have more look into it and more introspecting as to what is happening inside that whole black box. Could this be that we as a humans might be getting a better definition of consciousness through this whole model?
That's an interesting one, because, like, you think 20, 30 years ago, if you said, hey, I was going to counseling or therapy, a lot of your friends in your social network would be like, oh, what's wrong with you? Something's broken, right? But now with, like, we're past COVID, right? And a lot of people were having challenges during COVID. And if you
Yeah.
mentioned therapy, that's usually a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I think we realize that we're slowly getting better tools to be better humans, hopefully, right? We also could be getting better tools to also be worse humans.
Yeah.
But it could be very insightful. Like, hey, maybe we're not unique snowflakes, or maybe we really are unique snowflakes. It would be, and this is a little bit of a tangent because I like all nerdy things, but right now we have not really found life outside of Earth, right? But if
Yeah.
we found life on Mars and it shares our DNA structure, then we know that, like, like, hey, our DNA structure isn't that unique. If it doesn't share our DNA structure, that also takes us down a very, very interesting path, because it's like, wow, life could be everywhere. Now, if if it matches our DNA structure, that might be not bad news, but sadder news, right? Like, life is unique, but it might not be everywhere. But I think that'll be the interesting thing, is maybe the DNA
Yeah.
doesn't need to be the same. And the fact that
Yeah.
the DNA isn't the same means it's everywhere.
And maybe
So,
more than it learning from us, we are going to learn from it. Who knows?
yeah.
Let's see.
And truthfully, it's gone both ways. It's obviously been learning from us for many
Yeah.
and many and many months, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So now we have got Demis and Dario going to Davos, and they were both made to sit on one couch and talk about all things AI. And one of the prominent things that came out is their whole idea about that, yeah, we need someone to have new governance models for these AI models or these front labs that exist. And it brings me to two questions. First of all, I don't think the government, and this I'm being very skeptical, the government is not ready to handle these things.
I would
And
say most governments aren't ready to handle it. Yeah.
yeah, and secondly, the whole idea about, okay, someone should do this, does this mean that they are not able to do it? Because there's another angle to it. When Fable 5 went out, when they pushed it back, there was a whole discussion between Trump government and them, and that, okay, you need to do it yourself. This is your problem. Amazon showed it to you. Now you guys have to build some structure that you take care of it. Okay. So the government was pushing back it on them that, okay, this is your stuff. You have to take care of for these. You have to make sure that there are no jailbreaks and all that stuff. Who is trying to push it to the other party? And again, coming back to my first question, like, do you think the governments are they really will be able to handle it?
I would probably say I'm kind of an anarchist, right? An anarchist
Yeah.
doesn't mean like I want the world to fall apart. It means that like I don't love a lot of controls, right? I don't want there always to have to be a license for everything. In the United States, if you want to cut hair, you need a license to cut hair.
Yeah.
That seems a little odd. I understand why they're doing it, right? Like, haircuts are getting more complicated. There's chemicals that are being used, right? So in some aspects, it makes sense. So my default is in that kind of anarchist kind of world. So my default would be, I would love to live in a world where we didn't have to do that, but we do have bad actors. And we also do have import and export controls. Right. And now we're in this, and we've been saying this, right? You can't put AI in a shipping container. And a lot of our import and export controls are around that kind of things in shipping containers. So now we're struggling with this. Wish that our governments were talking about this 5 years ago. And then I think I would be more on board. I truly hope that we are in a glass half full, and the abundance that we will be creating in the next couple of years benefits everybody. But I do believe that is coming from a position of privilege. I do not know that that is for everybody. I do think there is going to be a messy middle. We see the messy middle when we do these codings and when we do other stuff. And I really feel that messy middle. Is that messy middle going to be a week? A month, a year, 10 years? That's what probably scares me the most. And I don't know that the government fully understands the messy middle. I also do think that some countries and some states will have things to say, you know what, we're not doing AI. If you have a self-driving car, you can't drive through Texas or whatever it is, right? I think you're going to see that. You're already seeing that, right?
Yeah.
Self-driving cars aren't allowed in a lot of European countries. And I think you'll see that same thing, like, especially when robotics start doing jobs. You're going to have, hey, if you have a McDonald's in Tennessee, you can't have robots in the McDonald's in Tennessee. You have to employ human agents, human people.
Yeah.
So I do think we're going to see a lot of that pushback, but I do think there's going to be a lot of people and systems that are going to stub their toes over the next couple months and years. And the reason I think that is because we haven't been talking about it. So
And
I do think government should play in it a little bit, though.
And the thing is, so there are two aspects to it for me. Okay, we asked them to do it. Okay, like, okay, you bring in the policies, you bring in the framework, that's fine, we'll abide by it. But the first thing is that politics is involved. And when there's a politics, there's a complete stall of everything, stops, right?
Yep.
Then they start looking at their personal agendas, how they're going to benefit and all that stuff. Second thing, they don't have that machinery at the moment, let alone they don't have even the intellectuals who could actually tell what is happening in these AI models and how they are. And how can you govern a prompt that no one has access to? I mean, you cannot start looking at every line of code, right?
Well, and even in the US government, when you look at some of these committee meetings, like, these people don't understand Facebook. Like,
yeah.
and we're not even having that. Like, they don't understand TikTok, right? Like,
Yeah.
So it's at such a different level. So I don't know. And every country's a little bit different. I
Yeah.
am curious if some country like China or some other country that is more of they have a lot of control over their system, if
Uh,
secretly they're able to move faster because of that. Like I know that my company is small. We have been able
yeah.
to move fast in AI because we are small, right? We don't have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of committees. We don't really have
Mm-hmm.
to like ask a lot of like. Don't get me wrong. We have consensus, but when leadership is a handful of people, you can move really fast, and it's just going to be those things. Our government has been successful because it is slow to change, and that's
Yeah.
always a good thing. But now we
Mm-hmm.
live in a world where we do need some fast change and break stuff. But I don't know. I mean, it's like it's the space. Everything's going on with SpaceX, right? Like they're moving
Yeah.
fast and breaking stuff. Will SpaceX be the leaders of space travel in the next year? 100%, right? They already
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
But in 5 years, 10 years, there's probably going to be a lot more competition. It's not going to be
Yeah.
just one monopoly. But I do fear a really messy middle.
And when people like Sam Altman comes on and says that okay, we need a world government AI policy or framework that is followed by all the democratic nations and all that stuff. It's just a simple question that okay, you built it, why not keep a regulation for it? Obviously, keep the government in loop, but why not do it yourself? What is stopping them from doing this?
Yeah, I don't know. And I definitely do think some of these AI companies are struggling with that, right? Like XAI got built inside of SpaceX, and now that's like a
Yeah.
public entity. Anthropic is probably going to be going public. OpenAI, I think, wants to go public, but I think Sam is starting to slowly realize what that means to be a public company. Sam is not
Yeah.
a public person. He
Yeah. Not
loves
at
his
all.
privacy.
Yeah.
He will not have that freedom going forward. So I think there's some things going on. But there's a reason why I smile about like investment in our government with that. I
Hmm.
see it. I would love it to be entrepreneurial, right? Like, what if we had these investments in these things and every country uses RA models? We
Hmm.
almost have like a positive revenue stream that could help us do other things like
Hmm.
universal basic income, right? Like it could be really interesting. But my fear is, let's say this administration does invest in these AIs and we get a stake in these companies. Is the next administration able to sell that because inflation's going up and we need to pay some bills and all of a sudden we liquidate our investment in that and we pay our debts down, but then we're not invested in this thing. So I think it'd be really interesting in that spinning extra money off for us US citizens.
And interestingly, so Sam Altman has been talking to Bernie Sanders, Trump, and all that for OpenAI having giving 5% equity to the US government, which is around, I think, 40-50 billion dollars. Say 10 years, 20 years down the line, that might be a couple of $100 million or so. And maybe the next government uses that for good things or bad things. But the aspect that comes into play is why give this equity to the government that is really not interested in handling it?
I
And
mean, the US government is in a lot of our things, right? Like the US government has been involved in farming for years and years and years, right? Like
Mhm.
the US government is involved in transportation. Like so to just say like, hey, there's this new thing that is going to change everyone's life, but we're not going to be involved in that, but we're involved in everything that feeds us too. Like the US government's involved with utility companies.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense. I just don't know that we're going to get the structure right first go around.
Okay. And why Sam? Why not the others? Is it something that he is thinking that he is behind the race now, considering all that is happening?
I think so. If you look at the foundation of Apple, right?
Hmm.
You had a really smart business person and a really good nerdy person together, right?
Yeah.
Employee
Yeah.
number one, employee number two.
Mm.
And that company would not have been successful without either of them, right?
Mm.
So I think the challenge is if you look at Anthropic and they've been hiring new individuals and bringing on some talent, but a
Mm.
lot of these firms are founded by the nerd. And trust me, like I am super nerdy and a lot of my friends joke about like me lacking people skills, right?
Mm. Yeah.
That is a problem on that one side. I think Sam is more like the other personal side. He's trying to create those relationships and trying to do those things. I also
Mm.
don't know how much Sam has a good second individual that is his like whiz kid nerdy person to pair with that. I don't
Mhm.
know that any of these organizations really have that dichotomy that would really benefit them to make a stronger team. So I think that's why Sam is going more that social path. I mean, think about it. Sam pretty much got kicked out of his company, and because of
Yeah.
his social skills, he stayed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You look at Apple, like that didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
Jobs got kicked out, like
Yeah.
thrown to the trash and came back a couple years later. So Sam is almost, we talk about like how Jobs had this job sphere around him. Like whenever you talk to him, he envisioned big and he just brought you with him on these big journeys. Sam Altman might be more influential as a team player than him. Doesn't mean I like him. I don't think
Yeah.
I like Jobs either. I think
Hmm.
I would want to stay away from them a lot. But I think Sam is more personable than a lot of the other leaders in these organizations. Doesn't mean he's smarter.
And I have been reading these Financial Times reports. So Dario and Demis are like lovable brothers. They are like getting along pretty well. Dario is talking to Musk and because of the chips and all that stuff. And I think Sam is somewhere feeling that left out, that FOMO thing is happening to him. And that could be one of the reasons that he's pushing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been real. Like everyone is talking about like OpenAI might be the MySpace of technology companies, right? Where everyone was using it for a period of time.
Yeah.
And then no one's using it anymore, right? So he's at a fork in the road. So, and I don't think he wants to not be the leader in that industry.
And interestingly enough, one more question I have. So these front labs, they are talking about bringing AI governments and building things, and frameworks and all that. But in this race, it's these guys who are pushing things fast, right?
Mhm.
Launching models, trying to be ahead in the race, valuations, profit, net revenue, and all that. Shouldn't they be looking at themselves and say that, okay, we need to build a model, we need to slow this down, we need to build a healthy race?
I struggle with that. I know like you always hear them like 3 months ago say like, hey, we need to slow down. Hey, we need to slow down. But then here's something even bigger. I like going fast and breaking things. But now we're at a stage is like the things that I break are pretty small. But like I don't drive my car fast, right? Like I'm not saying, oh, go fast and break things and drive 100 miles down the highway and hurt a whole bunch of people. And I think there was a good book talking about like what's gotten you here won't get you that like where you want to go. When I was young in my engineering degree, like being not difficult, but like almost abrasive to say like, this is broken, we need to fix it. Or this, like that was very good when I was early on, right? I didn't have direct reports. All the manager saw as a go-getter kind of thing. But when you're managing other people, if you're always doing that, you're not going to get very far. So I don't know that we're ready for like what has got us here with all these advancements are going to get us to that next phase of abundance that we really need. I mean, I hear the speech, like obviously everyone talks about Anthropic might be the more pure spirit of that.
Yeah.
But the proof is in the pudding. We're not fully there yet, right? Like it's weird that they're going to go public. Is that a benefit? Like OpenAI started as like not going to be public, but now there's a public aspect to it. So it struggles. I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen.
All right, that was the last question. I think we are done. Do you want to add anything else?
No, I'm excited. There's a lot of things that's going out really fast. Anjani, I always appreciate you with these conversations.
Likewise, it's fun for me, to bring these questions and have a discussions.
Exactly.
Hello.
So everyone that's been listening, watching to us, peace.
Yeah.